I was about 11. My sisters were 5 and 3. And at that point, my mother pretty much went to bed like for the rest of my life, truly. She just like didn't come out of her room anymore. She had all these health issues and all these things that were keeping her kind of from being able to enjoy any part of her life. And she struggled with mental illness, like significant mental illness. She was sick. And when we see like a sick person in society, we give all this grace around prescription medication. Well, what that turned into was a pretty severe drug addiction.
Welcome, everyone, to the amazing one and only One Moment podcast. We have a very distinguished and special, very special young lady on our show today. And let me say, it's been about a year since she's been on, and she is an amazing young lady. She's an entrepreneur. She's a female entrepreneur at that. She runs a couple of different businesses, and she primarily works with females. And hey, that's fine with us because we talk about minority stuff. We talk about anything as it goes. So, listen, if you are a female and you are struggling, or you're triggered at all during anything we talk about, there's resources out there for you, not just for males. Uh, Please utilize your resources. Local hospital, local crisis center. If you live in the Western Hemisphere, U.S., Canada, South Central America, you have 911 and 988. Please, please, please utilize your resources. And that's the disclaimer. We always start with the disclaimer and then we'll go from there. And I don't want to tell any of her story, too much of it, anyways. But her name is Miss Sharissa, is what I call her. She is from Midwest of the U.S. and she is a very amazing young lady. And everybody knows who Trev is. And Trev is just like me. We're nobodies. Miss Sharissa is the most important person on the show.
Kevin, thank you so much. Thanks for having me back. And I always feel like it's such a pleasure the way you introduced me last time. You were like, oh, maybe she's not an extrovert, introvert, right? Just always have such a good time. So thank you for having me back. And I'm just really excited to get to share more about my story, more about myself, and spend a little more time with you guys.
I love it. I love it. Oh, yes. And Trevor, I forgot to tell you, I left that part out. She says she's an introvert, but I don't think she's an introvert, brother. I think she's more of an extrovert.
Kevin doesn't believe me.
Okay, well, I'm the male version of Chatty Cathy, so we're all good.
Perfect.
And I'm not joking. I really mean that.
Right. Hey, listen, I know you and I could talk our heads off all day, brother. So we were talking last time you were on here about your jobs and everything that you do. And, we spoke a lot, about about minority, concerns with women and their struggle in the publishing area. We talked about self-esteem. We talked about even your struggles, some of your self-esteem issues, even some of the financial pieces of it. So I know if we talk about all of that, it's going to be a repeat of a year ago. I don't want to repeat. I want to continue building upon everything we spoke about. And so, yeah, like let's jump into this.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. And I love the different categories that your podcast covers and kind of the wide range of things that you share about. And I feel like the next most logical step now that we know about this like macro version of Sharissa is to maybe dive in a little deeper and share a little bit about my story, where that all kind of stems from, but like from an earlier place. And where that actually started was about when I was 11 years old. My mom got diagnosed with a bunch of chronic illnesses, like just all these things, widespread pain, fibromyalgia, colitis, like just a list of these things that happened. And at the time, I was about 11. My sisters were 5 and 3. And at that point, my mother pretty much went to bed like for the rest of my life, truly. She just like didn't come out of her room anymore. She had all these health issues and all these things that were keeping her kind of from being able to enjoy any part of her life. And she struggled with mental illness, like significant mental illness. And I've learned this like after the fact, but I feel like as a child, this isn't really something I understood. And I thought it was like the illness that was causing it, which really, I think what ended up happening was in my life, I've come to understand like she's a legitimate psychopath, like an actual person who like preys on people's like energy and like, tortures people for fun. Like that's the only relevant. I have a master's degree in psychology. Like I'm not coming out of this from nowhere. Like I've literally done my research and I'm looking at this person like, oh, this is the truth of it. But at 11, I didn't understand that. I thought I needed to like grow up and be the person who was taking care of everybody and take care of her because she was sick. And when we see like a sick person in society, we give all this grace around prescription medication. Well, what that turned into was a pretty severe drug addiction, and to the point where when I was 15 years old, we were going to the hospital so often for her pain, for this widespread pain, that the doctors and the nurses at the hospital that was local to me trained me to inject her with lidocaine in her head. I was 15 years old. So from the time I was 15 years old, I was injecting my mother in her skull. I didn't understand at 15 years old that I had become an enabler, that I had become the reason that she was able to stay addicted to pain medication. And that lasted the whole time I lived with her. She ended up kicking me out just a few months before I graduated high school. And I ended up having to leave my baby sister there. And that was my hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And then a few years later, I was able to go and basically steal my baby sister in the middle of the night from her house. Left all of her stuff there, and she was able to live with me for the next 9 years. So we were kind of able to like rescue in that situation. It was horrifying. Excess animals, massive hoarding, just trashed like life environment. And then not only that, I was trained from a very, very young age how to lie to government services. So things like hiding abuse, hiding the drug addiction, hiding the neglect, hiding the lack of food and resources. So my story actually starts all the way back then from having this thought or this mind of like having to rescue her, having to care for her. And then all the way to now understanding like, wow, she actually tortured me and brainwashed me, because a lot of the time that I was caring for my siblings, I believed that I was their parent, because my mother would tell me on a very regular basis, in heaven, before we came here, this is verbatim, in heaven, before we came here, you and I had an argument about who would be the mother. And I became the mother, but it was supposed to be you. And she told me that on a weekly basis, like very regularly, to the point where I thought that my siblings were mine. Like I was supposed to care for them. And I did. I didn't go to school anymore. I didn't really eat anymore. This is where the anorexia stems from. And my self-esteem issues. The first time I tried to kill myself, I was 11 years old. So suicidal ideation starts way back and had to have been fought even up until this point in my life. I still struggle with that as like this is so hard. The world is falling apart. I should just die. Like it's so fast. The pathway in my brain is like this built-in freeway, like bridge from hardship to death, like instant. And I have to like fight back and go like, no, you have so much to live for. You have so many good things. So I have like all these tattoos all over my body that are like these reminders of like, you're supposed to live. Like I have all these like flowers, like every family member in my family like has like a birth month flower, and I have it on my body. It's like, that's why you're here. And like on my wrist, like, don't slit your wrist. You love yourself. Like, don't. And then my other wrist is like, you're here to be a messenger of love. So it's like these little reminders everywhere, you know? So I had to like constantly battle it because of just like trauma and brainwashing and drug addiction. So it very much plays this role in my life that it changed everything for me from this kind of secondhand perspective. And not only that, like I gave up my whole life to give to my siblings a life that they didn't have to experience the same way that I was. So I learned how to cook when I was 11. People ask me all the time, like, how do you cook so well? I've been cooking for 25 years. Meals for every meal for my family for 25 years. So you get pretty good at something if you do it for long enough, right? The 10,000 hour mark was hit many, many years ago, even though I'm still young, right? So my story and the reason that I wrote my book, my Journey Back to Health book, was because at 27 years old, I found myself a sick mom. I found myself in the same exact position my mother put me in as a child and wanted anything but that. So I healed myself because I wasn't going to be like that. And then I use my time and my energy to share a healing message for other people who are like me, that it's possible to come out the other side of it. And I still struggle with so many things. I still have to remind myself all the time of all these different things that we have to say. But I'm still here. I'm happy. I have a family. I have all these things, right, to point back to. I have like the cutest dog ever that's just like laid out right here, like snoring, right? Like it's so good. I obviously am no contact with my mother. She lives down in Mexico, and as far as I know, is still living that same kind of extremely narcissistic, taking from people until they won't give anymore. Very looking for the people who will just kind of accommodate and enable and pick up her meds for her because she's a sick person. And she still continues that narrative. So I don't have that type of influence in my life anymore.
Wow, sure. So that's an amazing generalization of such a vast amount of traumatic experiences in life. On the backside of that coin, it seems like you're saying my story. And I don't have a master's in psychology, but I've dealt with psychologically disabled people who are incarcerated. And for me, without a degree, to be able to have a set of skills that helps me to assist them in doing the time that a bunch of them that I've helped will never get out of prison, period. But if I can utilize my spiritually given ability and training given ability to help those people do their time a better way than what they're used to, then it means I've got something special that I can help share with others. And it's amazing to have you here with us today on our podcast as our guest. And I'm thrilled to have this discussion with you. Everything seems to be going very swimmingly. Thank you for being here with us today. And that's a very special and amazing story that you just shared with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. I feel like our mission and our values are aligned in that way where we use what we've learned to help other people rather than allowing it to turn us bitter and angry, right? People tell me all the time, you have every reason to be angry, but that's not the kind of life I'm seeking. I'm seeking a life of balance and peace and homeostasis and happiness on occasion. That's such a hard one to find. That's like oh, I want that. But, I seek like bliss and joy moments and things like that. But I think that it's definitely a path that you can choose whether or not you're going to be really angry and take it out on everyone around us, or to use it in like a way that helps other people. And I think that Trevor, you and I seem to be doing that, and Kevin, obviously you as well.
Absolutely. One of the most unique things that I thought was really cool was the fact that you like to cook and did it at a young age. So I just turned 55 on last Friday, and at 3 years old, I got up, and back at that time they didn't have um, pre-made stuff, so you had to slice the tomatoes, slice the pickles, slice the onions. I did all this, and I'm making hamburgers at like 3 o'clock in the morning. My mom comes downstairs after she smells them because I'm cooking literally on a gas stove at 3. And she says, "What the heck are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm making hamburgers, Mom." Tore my butt up, and still to this day, she says those are the best hamburgers she ever ate in her life. So going down that line of cooking, yeah, I, that's kind of something that I deal with all the time because I'm like the primary uh, meal preparer in our home right now, and sometimes I'm getting kind of in a position where I'm like it's like I don't know what to make anymore because I've gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, I made that before, I made this before, just putting it all together. So preparing a meal is a pretty cool skill to have, and I'm glad that we have the unionization with that because that helps me bond even further with you, and that's awesome. Real quick question: are you a middle child?
Technically, yes. I have an older brother, but he started drinking when I was like 6. He had already become an alcoholic, and then that escalated pretty quickly into some other addictions, which destroyed our relationship and our trust. And so that's something we've tried rebuilding a couple of times. He's 3 years sober now. but even sobriety doesn't bring trust right away. So we're working through that. It's been a long time. And then I have the two younger sisters. He was already gone when my mother went to bed. He went to college at that point and was living in school. So it was just me and my sisters at that point.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sad because you got a lot of complex dynamics that's going on, and at age 11, you're forced to grow up and be basically the 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old in the house. You're 11 years old. Like, you haven't even, experienced high school, middle school, teenage years.
Sixth
You
grade.
haven't experienced right, right. Like, your hormones, like the
Nothing.
teen
Nothing had changed. Yeah, I was a child.
right. And that for me, prior to the suicidal stuff, that happening, I can see the relationship.
Oh, certainly. And again, there was mental health issues way before that. There was homelessness. We lived like before that even happened. We lived in a tent for a year in the Sierras. We were
No
constantly
way.
homeless. Yeah, we were constantly homeless. My mom was a single mom, 4 kids, and like struggling with mental illness. So I feel like it almost was like that point at 11, it was like, okay, I don't have to do this anymore. Her son had already left and she just like gave up. It was done. She was done. But before that, there was so much trauma that led up to that, including sexual assault at a very young age, including neglect. And like I said, the homelessness. And then I was trained by the time I was 5 years old to lie to CPS. So you can probably deduce what was happening in the home if I was taught at that age to lie to the protective services, not only in the home, but in the school, which we found out later. All of us children had been taken out of classes at some point separately, and we're all pretty much lying in the exact same way.
That is some of the most scariest stuff because our obligations, and Trevor will even tell you, Trevor and I, you know, being mentally, not even gonna lie, I'm being triggered over the Epstein's crap. You know what? I'm gonna just be for real. Being triggered over this Epstein bullshit,
100%. Me too.
right? Over what you're sharing, because our main obligation as adults, when it comes to the young, like, they are the ones we protect. They are the most vulnerable. They're the most innocent.
Oh,
Even if you're 12, 13, 14, and you're getting the hormones and all of that, our goal is to still help guide that development, until they're able to make a rational, cognitive, age appropriate decision themselves. I guess, in the US we call it, or in Western civilization we call it age 18. Well, like, you never even got that opportunity. You were making decisions as a 19, 20-year-old at age 11, 8, 9, 7, 6, 5.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was my mother that was putting me in risk. And it was my mother that was the one that was putting me in danger. And not only that, she was extremely abusive. Like the reason that the school would pull the kid out of class, like bruises, like I thought I would die multiple times. I have multiple near death moments with this woman, like she should be in prison. And just no one, it's not that no one tried to help, it's that I learned to not accept help from anyone. So I do want to make that distinction because she told us that no one would take 3 kids at that point. Again, I have this older brother, but she was always saying, no one is going to take all 3 of you. And what will happen to you if they come and they take you is that they will separate you. And then in the homes that you're separate in, there were like illicit things that she would say that would keep us scared to not say anything about what was happening in our house. And so my goal always was to keep my sisters together, keep us together. If I could keep us together, I could keep us safe. But I do think that I did put us in more danger that way because I kept us in a place that was extremely dangerous to all 3 of us.
Now, let me challenge you real quick, and then I'm gonna throw it to Trevor. And I say challenge, I think it's less of a challenge. I don't want to use that word, but I think it really kind of fits. Did you really keep y'all's self in more danger? Or trying to, from the ideal of, trying to keep y'all together? Because it's in your mind, I'm protecting them. I can keep eyes on them versus Was it more of at that age, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, you have no knowledge of what you have now. You have no control over, for an example, what you have control over now. Uh, y- you didn't have the experiences that you have now, right, in life. The training, like all of this stuff, the education, all of this stuff. So was it really and truly your fault as a child?
Oh, of course not. And another added element to this, we weren't allowed to watch any television. So I had no example of what it would look like otherwise. You know, like the TV mom, like I didn't get her until after the war started because we got the TV and cable after after 9/11 to like watch the war. And so I had no access to any other example to say like, oh, this is wrong. This behavior is wrong. So like, yeah, you're right. I had no skills, no knowledge, and no access to have any way to learn. There wasn't even internet, right? We didn't have, I was like, at that time, maybe a handful of people had a home computer and it was expensive. You're talking like $5,000 to have a home computer at that point. It would be like another 3 or 4 years before Mac had like the MacBook and things like that you would have home access to a computer. So there wasn't like any way for me to know if what was happening was right or wrong until so much later in life. So no, of course not, Kevin. It's hard though not to like go back and forth in your mind and say, but if this, then this, right? And of course I didn't know. I just only wanted to keep them safe. But in that home environment, we were subjected to abuse, neglect, and denied physiological resources. So safety, place to sleep, food, water, shelter, the basic needs. We were denied those basic needs. So I don't know, like who's to say? Obviously I can't tell like what would be different, but I wonder always, would we have at least had access to basic needs?
And Trevor, I lied. Give me 2 seconds.
You lied about what?
Yeah, give me 2 seconds. Dad, I promise you can have it, okay? I
Okay.
promise. Knowing what you know now versus then you didn't know what you know now. If you had to re-experience that, would you have made a different decision?
Okay, so I think about this all the time because two of my siblings went into addiction, pretty bad addiction, to the point of like almost losing them multiple times. And one moved to the Middle East. So I don't get to be with them. We're not together. We don't like get to raise our families together. I did end up getting separated from them at some point, right? So at some point that did come to fruition. And like a part of me wonders all the time, like if I had just let us separate then, could we have been together now? Because it's so triggering. It's so triggering to be together sometimes. Like with my brother, if he brings up any kind of stories about anything, like we all remember things a little differently. We all had a slightly different perspective of it. And so even though there's no animosity between the siblings, there's no connection really either. The one that I'm the closest to lives all across the whole entire world from me. And so we don't really like get to have that. And I always wonder, like, if I had given them safety before, not subjected them to the chaos, could we have had a better relationship now? I mean, both of those things I can't answer. I can't answer the question. I have more questions for your question.
That sounds like a really active mind to me, and that's amazing because just listening to you describe some of the things that you talked about puts me into the Wayback Machine. Like I said, I just turned 55 on Friday, and my experience was in the 70s, and I grew up in the 80s, and kind of don't get me wrong, I know the young people. Kevin, you're young, 35 now, 30, coming on 30. No, you just turned 36 too, didn't you?
No, I'm 23, dude. I'm 23. You can't be telling
Yeah,
like
yeah. And what's amazing to me is that, Miss Sharissa, is the fact that everything you're talking about, I'm kind of like reliving the experience from what was in my life in the 70s. I started working out in the garden and stuff and with my dad because he wasn't stable. My parents were divorced when I was like 4. Dad got custody of us, which was an amazing thing in the 70s. Got all 3 of us boys, and he was an alcoholic, drug addict, and living in a tent. I'm like, how I'm connecting with you is real reality that happened with me. And I'm like, son of a bitch, what in the hell is going on with this world? So bringing it to today and what you said a few moments ago, Kevin, about the Epstein files, how important is it? Whew, try not to get emotional here, to protect our children, to stand up for them and help them to learn positivity in their life, not try to force them to be something that they're not, or all these other dimensional characteristic based feelings of other people. Let them be themselves and nurture them. Teach them in a loving way. Teach them in a positive way. Don't have an environment that they're existing in where they have to learn how to survive on their own, because that's exactly damn what I did. And I'm 55 years old, and I'm in a state of circumstances right now where I've been having it come up to me in the last probably 2 months. There's got to be much more to life than just basic survival. And that's all I've ever learned. How do I switch that up? How do I turn it around? How do I the realization that I am certain that I have a CPTSD. PTSD as itself is bad, but the complex CPTSD embellishes your entire life scope. And here I am, like, going from day to day, and I'm engaged with a new spiritual program, that's my strength. That's where it is. I know that's where it is. And I'm walking down a new community with people that are engaged, high level military. And they've stepped away from their military approach. But at the same time, it can combine with that, because I remember in Sunday school, we learned a song called I'm in the Lord's Army. Not getting religious, because I'm anti-religious, but spiritually, you engage that spirit with that spirit, and you're going to do just fine, no matter what happens, what comes your way. So, Miss Sharissa, what a privilege it is for you to be our guest. Once again, I'll amplify that. An amazing story, because it helps other people to reflect on what happened in their lives, to maybe get a firmer grip on the foundation to build something more positive today in this moment. So I'm just kind of flabbergasted, but thank you for sharing. I'm kind of just sharing openly. I hope that's not, Kevin, that's not like unprogrammatic or anything, is it, buddy?
You're fired. I'm kidding. Listen, that's what we do, man. That is what we do. We come over here. We have, you know, an awesome time. We have a great time up here, but we get real at the same time.
It's a totally organic thing. It's not structured. It's just, man, the human connection is the most important thing right now today to every human being. Connect with other human beings. I'm pretty against AI. Sure, technology is awesome. You, Sharissa, you talked about $5,000 computers. I'm like, $5,000? The Commodore 64 was only a couple of $100, and that was in the 70s and early 80s. I remember using the Radio Shack TS-80, like the original computers.
Well, that's
So
just because you're old.
yeah, what's that? Yeah, I'm old. No, yeah, the whole full circle scope of life in this moment and in this conversation is one of the most brilliant and wonderful things. I'm extremely thankful and grateful just to be here with the both of you right now today.
Well, think about it though, Trevor, because you shared about the price tags of certain things, and contrast that to, or I'm gonna say compare slash contrast that to what you were saying earlier, Miss Sharissa, where y'all never had basic TV until after
After the
9/11.
war, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and so, like, you don't even know the price tag on anything, right? Like, you're not even connected to anything that's going on in society except for what's going on at school. And outside of that, like, I mean, when you talk about emotional abandonment, when you talk about, social abandonment, when you talk about developmental abandonment, literacy abandonment, like, you're talking about abandonment in many areas of your life, and not just your life, but your sister's. And then I love what Trevor was just saying. He mentioned complex PTSD. Like, that is a serious, a serious. I guess you can say diagnosis. I don't know if if it's even in the DSM-5 yet.
We just
Um,
call it condition.
yeah, yeah. I mean, no, 100%. It's a serious condition, and like my question to you is, from all of that trauma, the suicidal attempts, plural, correct? What what did the solution, like? When did you start living or implementing the solution? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a juicy question because it brings me to the very last time I tried to kill myself, which is a touchy subject because I was pregnant at the time. And I rented a hotel and had a plan because I wanted to be like far enough away from my family that they wouldn't have to find me or be the ones that found me or cleaned anything up or saw anything. So I got a hotel, certain floor, certain place, all the things planned out so that I could just be done. And it was when I was up on the foot over the ledge moment and had this moment of this isn't your body anymore. Because I was pregnant with my son at the time, who's now 7. And I think about that all the time. Like he was there, 6 weeks in there. And I just thought that I was being trapped and that I was never gonna be free or like free to live any kind of life. I mean, this is only like just 7 years ago. And when I stepped back, whatever stopped me, because it was literally like, this had already come so many times. This is maybe like the 7, 8, 9th time I tried to do this. It just never worked where no one would have to be hurt by it. I didn't want to like hurt my family additionally to what I was about to do. It was me. Like I couldn't live in my brain anymore. And when I pulled myself back up over the ledge, I called my family. I didn't tell them what I did, but I said, like, I don't trust myself being alone. Can you come? And they came. And I just pulled myself into the blankets until they got there, locked the balcony door, shut the curtains, pulled myself into the bed, and waited until they got there because I didn't trust myself to not follow through. And it was when I was driving home that next day, I was alone in my car and I called one of my friends and I told her what I did. And she said, if you're not going to die, then you need to decide to live now. And that was it. I just, from that moment on, every single time the thought comes up, I just go right back to that moment in the car and say, no, I already made this choice. I'm not going to keep battling this battle. I'm done. I made the choice. I made this choice. I'm here. I'm here and I'm going to stay here. And I'm going to do my work and I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. And I'm going to live my purpose and I'm going to raise these kids. And CPTSD, like for me, the name mom is a trigger. Just that word itself, which is in itself only a word. I get that word 700 times a day. I have 3 children. I went to therapy for 10 years just to be able to hear the word and not have a panic attack. Where? That's what my thought would go. Where? So just only 7 years ago, Kevin, and only because I told myself I was doing that, this was it. I'm going to do this now. Instead of the highway that says die, 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 I'm going to say, okay, let's take the back roads to live, live, live. And it's going to be hard and it's going to take time because I have to recarve a new path that never existed. Because my mom and dad got married for a green card marriage. So my dad never wanted me. Okay. So immediately you're coming into a world where you're not even really wanted. When my mom got pregnant with me, she got pregnant with a womb that had an IUD in it, and IUDs cause spontaneous abortions. Okay. So immediately it was like they were trying to kill me from the time that I started, from the womb, not wanted and trying to kill me. And then multiple times she held me by my throat until I almost died. So many times. How do you live from that? If it's your own mother, how do you say I'm going to live? So it wasn't until I was pregnant with my son, almost took my own life and his, and then decided I can't do this anymore. I have to choose a different path. I have to make a different path. And it's been that ever since, 7 years. And I've just forced it. It's pure willpower.
I have to totally, what you said was the trigger for me. IUD. Guess who was born in 1971 with those in his ear? 2.5 months early. Middle child. The elder brother gets the privilege. The younger brother gets the privilege. Oldest baby. I just existed.
The
So,
doctor took out the IUD while she was pregnant with me.
wow.
So
That is,
multiple attempts on my life.
yeah. So it makes you question your own existence. And here I am, 55. I'm like, why is everything ended up so difficult for me, even though I've gone through many difficulties and gotten through them, but yet what is my real purpose of my existence? Just to help others? Now, wait a minute. Let's put on the brakes on that. How about helping me? That's never been much of a plan for me. It's the full spectrum of a lifetime being condensed into a short discussion that we're having, and it's amazing how human connection is so important. That's why I said, don't get me wrong, Kevin. I know that you like technology. I like technology too. You know, my generation was the ones that kind of brought it forward for you guys.
We just made it better. So
What's that? Bad decision? I got you.
our generation, Miss Sharissa's and my, she and I are the same age, right? I had to do my math as you were talking, right? She and I are the same age. Our generation made y'all's technology 10 times better. I mean,
Okay. Oh man, just what an amazing experience this is. This is great because these are things that no one really wants to touch lightly on the topics that we're talking about. And it's important that we bring attention to the many things that are stigmatically and stereotypically dismissed, discarded, ignored, minimized. It is extremely important to every human being to maintain that human connection in a positive way, especially for our children, our grandchildren, possibly even great grandchildren. Those people are the most important because what we're leaving them to inherit from us should be positive. I don't want to leave something negative. You wouldn't even think that somebody like me that does not have a relationship with his two children. I have an 18-year-old son and my daughter would be 34 this year. I haven't seen her since she was 7, and I haven't seen my son since he was 8. Relationships, trying to save other people, trying to take care of other people and be productive for them and show them how good you are. And that's not even accepted as anything good because you try to do and act, behave the same way everybody else does. You're just trying to be a regular person. Oh, but that gets you in trouble. So the learning part of it is difficult at times. Without that spiritual connection, it is extremely difficult. You have to maintain that every day. Otherwise, your spirit can get confused and contorted and twisted and demented in a negative way to everybody around you, and you may not even realize it. So I'm kind of going back and forth a little bit in some things. I'm not trying to go out on a leg of my own, but
It's okay.
this is just, I'm like, whoa, this is an amazing episode, bro. And chicas, mi familia, Mr. Kevin, Yeah,
Me,
mi
yeah.
familia. You did something for another human being. How dare you do that? You're so positive. It's so bad, right? No, it's not. I'm blessed, humbly blessed to have and call you my friend, my brother, a type of a mentor for me, even though you're a young guy. I can see it. I can feed off of that. And I like that because that's the energy that comes from our relationship. Along with this young lady too. Just what a great episode. Awesome.
Well, no, I mean you're saying it best, right? Because as Miss Sharissa said too, I love that you're building on what that you two are going back and forth, building on what the other person's saying. And both of you said it. I have to forge a new path. All right, recovery. This is what recovery is. I have to forge a new path, and it's a daily walk. I'm going to have thoughts of going back, to, or even, putting a period at the end of that sentence, right? And I have to figure out a way to rewrite that sentence, to rewrite that day, or whatever that path forward looks like. And it's a path that we've never been on. It's a path that we don't know anything about. It's a path that we're going to screw it up royally, and yet it's going to be somewhat successful because we don't put a period at the end of that sentence. You see what I'm saying? And so I love what both of you are saying on that one because it's a daily walk. Sometimes it's a moment by moment walk, and I think the struggle is real. It's not just a walk in the park, where I'm rendered white as Snow White, or or white as snow, or what have you. It's a path that we trudge. It takes time to get there, and it takes time to forge this new path. And every day is not the same.
Yeah, I agree. And you have to constantly be finding new ways to make it right because obviously all the things I learned weren't helping me up until that point. And at that point I had a master's degree in experimental psychology. I had been seeking like happiness and I had been in therapy since I was 18 um, for a panic disorder, which I mean that makes sense, right? Just logically. And yeah, I spent a chunk of time just trying to figure out these different things that were mentally holding me back. And then even still, because this only happened, like this decision that I made only was like 7 years ago, it, I still had to find new things that are constantly helping me to see myself in a better way. Like when my kids are triggering me from saying, Mom, I have to not just accept that that's going to stay there forever. I have to then go and find a solution, work on it, increase my container and my capacity so that I can heal the discomfort and not live with it forever. So then I go to books on somatic therapy, and I've learned a lot about Stoic philosophy and just kind of letting things be the way they are, right? And accepting being able to still have growth myself and also be able to like accept other people for who they are, like, and not hold on to so much hatred and things like that. So it's a constant walk. And there's this extra step of you have to be seeking new knowledge. Like Trevor, as you were saying, like, oh, I'm on this new spiritual program. Like that's how I do things too. Like I seek new knowledge, new people that can help guide me and support me, and I listen to podcasts like this one so that I can connect with human beings, so that I can get a deeper understanding of what happened to me wasn't my fault, right? And what happens now is my responsibility. And those types of things I learn from hearing other people's stories and how they've changed their lives and how they've adapted these things. And I read a lot of like about people who did then end up killing themselves. Like I really was a fan of Anthony Bourdain for a super long time, and it crushed me when he was gone. And it was like, if someone like that had it all, that had the food, that had the travel, that had everything, if they can't make it, how the heck am I going to make it? And like Kate Spade, she got to do like the best life, right? She was a designer. People loved her in all these ways. If she can't do it, then how the heck am I going to keep going? So I'm having to constantly learn new ways to add like what I call ammunition against the monkey mind. So like I have these thoughts that like pull me into like a tornado in my mind, and I I need to like shoot it down. Like, no, you're wrong. That's false. Here's the facts. And so I have to like gather that ammunition. I have to learn new things so that I can battle myself when it comes to that freeway that's built in there. And I have such a hard time like breaking free of it. So it's like, we got to follow this path. And we also have to be bringing in new information that helps to change the narrative, because otherwise, right, same path, same thing, like same cycle. We talked a year ago about like being on that carousel and like not being able to get off that carousel ride, and having awareness is what like pulls us off of that cycle. And so we have to like learn so that we can have awareness so that we can get off of the millions of cycles that we exist in. And that is something that I'm actively working on all the time. One thing that always saves me no matter what is libraries and bookstores. Like, no matter what, however I'm feeling, if I'm in the slumpiest slump I have ever been in, if I go into a library or a bookstore, I look around and I feel like a total fool. Like, wow, Sharissa, look at how many things you have left to learn. You can't go yet. Like, look at all the things you haven't read. Look at all the things you still have to learn. And that it keeps me grounded and centered. Like, I am just someone who knows nothing. Like, the more you know nothing, right? Like, it's like the more information you learn, you're just like, wow, I really don't know anything. And then if I ever get like real big headed, I just tell myself, even if I know everything there is to know in this language, if I moved to another country right now, I would know nothing and I would look like such a fool because I don't know anything in their language. So there we go. I'm set back to zero again. And for some reason, that learning, knowing there's more to learn, knowing there's more to read, knowing there's more authors to meet, that is such a grounding thought for me. So I do have like all these tools in my pocket. Like, it's not something that I battle on my own. I have people that I share, like, this is what I'm dealing with. And I also am constantly trying to learn new ways to cope and thrive, right? Trevor, you were saying like, it's not just about surviving. We also have to thrive and have joy and laugh and like find containers of fun in whatever way that we possibly can. And I didn't ever focus on that either. I have such a hard time playing or having fun or laughing. And so that's something I'm still working towards now, like a new whole thing to learn, like how to play.
Right. And, you know, one of the things that both of you keep saying, right? I hear both of you saying is recovery is not a one and done deal.
Mm.
I was watching a movie, this is 11, 12 years ago now, and it was about a very popular surfer all of a sudden went poof be gone, and nobody even knew where he was at. You know, nobody understood why he had quit surfing and like the whole nine. And he was one of the best in that community. And so, during it actually found out that it was disclosed that he had, was a drunk, the town drunk, did some stuff, got
Mhm.
into a wreck. I mean, just a lot of just, stupid stuff, right? And one of the things he said was during it, during the movie, was that recovery is a series of steps that we take each day. It's not just one step. This is a series of steps that we take each day. And sometimes it's literally about putting that. I've told patients, literally put your chip in your mouth till it melts. Like, you can't use your drink or even do anything until, whatever melts in your mouth, right? And of course they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, hey, it's a tool. It's a tool. It works. It's worked for millions of people around the globe. Yeah, I'm telling you to do it because that's what they told, me too. And that's what I've heard numerous times from, public speakers, behind the podium. And hey, I'm using tools that other people have figured out, works wonders. So let me ask you this, right? Because you're talking about tools, and more tools. Talked about the library, and me, I go into a Hindu temple and I am at awe. I am just absolutely 100% peaceful, not a cloud in the horizon. And that's where I had one of my first spiritual experiences at, was a Hindu temple. What other experiences or tools have you learned over the years and I'm asking this. No, yes, it's a clinical question, but it's an educational question for people who are watching or listening to us. And no, I'm not trying to provide therapy to her. She's an amazing young lady. I love her to death. Look at her now like a sister. um, but I ask that because people might hear your story and they might be in the struggles. They might be in the confounds of in between their ears, right? What other tools have you found besides going into a library?
I find like so many tools from books, but I also find that just even being vulnerable, being able to practice vulnerability, like sharing little tiny bits. It doesn't have to be everything. Cause I feel like when we've had this level of trauma, we've had this level of things, trust is really hard to build. So it's really hard to be open with someone if you don't have that trust or like a paid relationship, right? You're helping someone. But I've really found a lot of help from somatic therapy, specifically because they talk about the can like getting into like a little tiny bit of whatever the story is, whatever the storm is, and then just allowing the body like the space, the physical space to like feel that and be like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. I'm gonna like cry it out or write it out or whatever. And it's kind of like this little practice of going into the eye of the storm, just gently and just with like a little tiny, like, I'm going to just feel this and I'm going to be okay. And I'm building this safe container for myself. Because one thing I've noticed is when we just ignore it or just, oh, I'm just going to feel that some other time, or I'm not going to think about that. I'm going to squish this emotion down. It does come back in pretty bad ways, like in health ways, like inexplainable emotional control, like we're not holding our emotions properly, like that kind of stuff comes out and it affects people in our life if we're not dealing with it. So I just recommend trying to find a place that you can be vulnerable, even if it's only in your journal, and then just feeling your feelings, but only a little bit at a time. Like it doesn't have to fully consume us. And I think that when we let our emotions fully control us and consume us, it can be so detrimental. So it's almost like, okay, here it is. This is what I'm feeling, and pull yourself back a little bit as an observer and just ask, like, where is this coming from? What does this stem from? I really love one person in the spiritual community, Teal Swan. She has like this whole program for connecting these puzzle pieces, and she talks about how we feel it and then we can like heal from it, right? And she has like a whole process of going into it and feeling those emotions, but then we can actually like let them go instead of letting it like control us and consume us. And I think that that's what I did for a really long time. And what would happen is these really intense panic attacks that I would literally black out after because it was so intense. It was just so long and so intense. I had no idea how to control it or what to do. And that's what was happening. It's like I wasn't dealing with the emotions. I was squishing them down and then they do come out. You can't like run or hide in any way. I really love the book Swamplands of the Soul by James Hollis. He's a somatic therapist, and he talks about how we can kind of go into these deeper, darker places and come out better with less like feelings of like the fear and things that control us. And one thing that I do live by is I pretty much do everything that I'm scared of. Like if there's something that I'm scaring me truly, I just go out and do it pretty quick because I don't like anybody having any control over me. That comes from living with a psychopath. Like I don't like any control over my life or my body in any way. And so that is, yeah, that's something I definitely recommend.
I like that short explanation because you amplified something that I've been engaged in for a long, long time. The word fear, using it as an acronym, false evidence appearing real. I'm not afraid of anything because I've been through so much crap that it just put this steel armor around me where was even in a meeting this morning where somebody said something about if you're not scared of anything, you're lying. I'm like, no, I'm not really afraid of anything. I've been through enough crap. And I'm sure you may have seen me daubing my eyes because you talked about um, the suicidal ideations. And when you experience that and you find someone that I did in 2000 when I moved to LA, Lower Alabama, the person that gave me the opportunity to come down there and get a fresh start, unalive themselves. And I never expected that individual to do that or me to even find it. I was so stupefied. I believed everything he said. I had no reason to doubt him. He had money. If he wanted chicks or whatever he wanted or needed, he was uh, an elder in the family for years and years. As a matter of fact, my grandfather that I only met twice on my dad's side and his family were engaged in the business before I was even born. So the family and connections were engaged for a long time. But when I was a 9-year-old kid, he kind of uh, clung to me in the sense that he thought I was the bright one. So whenever he'd come over, I'd always wax his car, help him clean, vacuum it out. And I was doing things as an adult at a young age, kind of like you were talking about, Miss Sharissa. And when I told somebody what I found that night when I got home from work, and he said he was going on a plane trip somewhere, I didn't have any reason to not believe him or not trust him. And then the next morning I get ready to go to work, and he's like, well, what'd Bud say to you last night? And I'm like, well, this is what I found when I got back to the house. Let's go over there and look around. I'm like, oh, okay. Looking around, looking around. The very last place we get to is an old dilapidated shed. And I open up the door, and the guy's like, shut the door. And I'm like, what? What is it? And found him. And so for him to be wrapped up in these accusations of other people drove him to such a point, that I didn't know, that he took his own life. And when you were talking about it, it triggered me because it was such a sad point in my life. But then again, because I haven't had any resources except me, even back in 2000, I didn't want to tuck my tail in between my legs and run back home to Michigan. I stayed. I stayed in Alabama and I forged through it. I went through Hurricane Ivan, survived through that. And that was an amazing experience. So the progression up until the things that I've done and everything today, I'm glad that my higher power has got me in a place of maturity where I can still remain open to learning new things every day, even in this conversation that we're having right now. Thank you for letting me be open, you guys. I know that was kind of a descriptive thing, but it actually happened.
Yeah.
It's no joking about it. And when I found him, I'm like, oh no, no, oh, oh wow. And this is somebody that I considered like an uncle to me. I was 28, 29 years old at the time. So I'd known him for 20 years. It wasn't like, you know, out of the clear blue that I wouldn't have recognized. I should have in afterthought. And all these years of that, sometimes when I get triggered to talk about it or whatever, the red flags were there. I just didn't know how to recognize them at that point in my life. So, anyways, yeah,
Thank you
I,
so much for sharing that. Thanks for being
yeah,
so
no
vulnerable.
problem.
Yeah, I just really appreciate your honesty and everything that you've shared this whole entire episode so far. I just feel closer to you, obviously getting to know you a little bit better. And I'm just really grateful that you're sharing. And it's so nice having met you, Trevor.
Yeah, you as well. It's a privilege, and I'm a firm believer that nothing happens by accident. Everything has a purpose to bring something out of you, and that's what it's doing. And when you said the IUD, I'm like, I was born with one of those things in my ear in 1971. I survived it. A friend of ours that's not on the episode today had his personal thing that he's got going on is called Live and Thrive. And I'm like, he's so upbeat. And I love that because I feed off from his energy about thriving. I'm like, yeah, I can live, I can thrive. And it's still kind of progressing slowly. I know it's up to it's down the road a little ways, but it's there. I'm still focused on it, and I'm walking that path through I see the light at the end of the tunnel, but the tunnel is still rough and bumpy and curvy and swervy and really amazing sometimes and overwhelming at other times, but I get through it one day at a time, one moment at a time.
I think that's so valuable to share because the hard part is in the middle, but we only ever share the before and after photos. So I think
Right.
that that's so valuable, and it is something that can pull people together by sharing.
Well, no, I think you both are hitting on a lot of good stuff because you're right. We talk about the before, we talk about the after, but we don't talk about the middle. We don't talk about, hey, you know, what was a mess? Like, what did I directly experience? Yeah, I had trauma. Now I'm in recovery. Okay, cool, great. I heard the speaker got up one time and said, he was he got asked to share his experience, Strength of Hope, and he was like, all right, it was good. Then it got great. Then it absolutely got sucky and it was just terrible. And it got worse. And then it got worse. And now it's great. And then he looked at the person who asked him. He was like, is that good enough? And she was like, no. I need you to tell your story, okay? Tell your experience. So I think it's important that we do talk about, experience, our experiences with, because you're right. Vulnerability is key here. The first time you came on, we didn't talk about this stuff, right? We got to build the actual trust itself because you didn't know me. Not once did we even talk on this level. And it took time to build that trust. And it took time to, you know, for you to be vulnerable or even feel, like you're able to be vulnerable with us. And I'm grateful for that. I really am. And so
I am too,
it
very
goes
much
to
so.
show, right. And it goes to show that, trust is not a something that is, given. Trust is earned. You had to earn my trust. You had to earn Trev's trust. Uh, and that's what actually happens off of this podcast too in everyday life. Trust comes over time. And I think it's important for people to realize that. It's not just I'm in recovery and then boom, everything's hunky dory glory. I didn't get sick overnight. I didn't, walking 10 miles of the woods and boom, on the other side, I can walk out. It's 10 miles in, 10 miles out. When you talking about 7 years in recovery versus 29 years uh living in hell. And when I say hell, I'm talking about both the hell of your childhood and the hell of here, of your own, of what's going on in between your ears.
Yeah. So true. Absolutely. The mental hell is almost worse because it's like it isn't happening anymore. Like none of these things are happening anymore. So the fact that it still exists in there seems like such a cruel, cruel thing to do to humans. Why should we have to keep all of this long-term storage and have it affect us so badly? And we know from research that so many of our patterns are built before we're even 7 years old. Like we have no control over that. And that brings it back to like the fear thing. Like I just really struggle with any feeling like there's someone has control over me, even me over me. And so when something pops into my head and it's like, oh, jump out of an airplane, like that's way too scary. It's like I'm doing it tomorrow. Like I'm not letting this fear stick me forever. Like no way. I'm afraid of making this new dish or whatever. I'm doing it tomorrow. And so I just dive into it. Even with you, Kevin, remember before I was like, I'm scared of having a male ask me questions in an interview setting. It was triggering and challenging for me. And I have this little like quote on my computer screen. It says, every time you have to be brave, you get to be a little braver next time. and it was from this book written by Catherine Senner, so I can give credit there. But it inspired me because it feels like, okay, I was brave with you last time, and we built the trust, and we've been building the trust over the year, right? We both are podcast hosts, and so we've shared guests and swapped stories and equipment recommendations and built that trust over time, which made it a safe environment at this point, months and months later, to be able to share the next piece. So that is a true testament to what you guys are building here.
Thank you for giving us credit. One thing that's brought to my attention is the dismissiveness of the entirety of civilization. I don't care what part of the planet you live on or what group you're involved in, whether you're Chinese, Russian, Middle Eastern, uh, Asian, whatever, American, Hispanic, whatever, Canadian, I don't care. Everybody wants to discard the details because it's too deep into something that they don't want to talk about, or they put up their boundary of. There's an episode that was one of the most important ones that we've done in this podcast so far, was an African American woman out of Chicago. And we did an episode about boundaries and had a wide open discussion about some important boundaries, about other boundaries that are non-negotiable. And I totally get that, because you have to be able to describe to other people the way that you feel and what you're willing to accept and deal with and what you're not, and have them to be able to have human love to you and either respect them or not respect them. And then you have to either cut yourself off or not. It's the relational issue. So, um, the details are extremely important to be able to openly discuss. That's what this episode is about right now. Amazing. I'm still flabbergasted.
You and I both. I mean, if we would have gotten on, talked the first time on all this level, would she have come back home? Probably not. I don't know. But I'm glad that she's back home. And when she started talking about, and I mean, the whole time I just had this blanket of peace just come over me. And I'm like, uh, this is so, I'm shocked, I'm amazed, I'm flabbergasted, ecstatic. I mean, just all these conflicting words. But you're right, though. The details matter, and you can't just get into the details in 1 hour, in 1 day. It takes time. It takes time to do that. I mean, you said it best earlier that, you know, you went through years of abandonment and abuse and traumas, multiple traumas. And so 11, you starting to have these self-harming thoughts and behaviors, and that goes on throughout the years, off and on throughout the years. Is like, it didn't just happen overnight.
Yeah, it obviously is over years and years, and then it takes that kind of time to reverse it, right? I feel like, Trevor, you've mentioned a couple times the things that happened before, and like now at your age, like it takes time to go back, right? It takes the time, and we have to have patience for ourselves and grace, which was never extended to us,
Right.
which makes it so hard to extend it to ourselves, and what makes it so important to extend it to ourselves.
No, 100%. I was struggling with something.
I'm gonna say yes 100%, not no 100%, but yes 100%.
What
Period.
evs? Okay, what evs at this point, Trev? I was struggling with something the other day, about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And when I was talking to my mentor, I talked to him about it. And, the one thing that he kept telling me was, that he emphasized was self-forgiveness. He was like, man, your creator, your spiritual path has already forgiven you. all these people over here have forgiven you. All of this is, all of these people over here have forgiven you. All of those situations you've been forgiven on, just that and a third. It was like it's, time for you to forgive yourself. And as you said, you know, this right here is the hardest thing to change, because how do you change that?
I mean, it
You know,
feels impossible. It feels literally impossible sometimes. I did, for some reason, when you were saying that, this meditation popped into my head. It's called the Ho'onopono meditation. Have you heard of it before? Ho'onopono. It's
uh,
a Hawaiian meditation, but it's about self-forgiveness, and it's just this chant that you can do for yourself, and it's four phrases. It's um, please forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. I love you. And it's for yourself. So when I was going through some of this healing about around the suicidal ideation, I would sit with myself and I would just kind of move through every part of my body that I had like harmed, whether through grace, not having grace, not extending grace, or physically harmed, like through surgeries or carelessness. And I would work through this meditation. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. And it takes a few minutes to kind of dig into it. But once you start connecting and saying, like, this is to my body, to me, to my physical body that I've neglected and harmed, because even though that neglect and that abuse happened like as a young person, I left when I was 17, whether I asked to or not. Those patterns did not leave me though. They stayed, and that self-abandonment did not leave me. Even though I was out of harm's way, I still kept the same patterns. I still kept the same harm. I still only ate like one meal a day, even though I was in control of that. I still slept only like 4 hours a night, even though that was in my control. Insomnia or any other way, like there's ways to train yourself, right? There's this self-abandonment that continued to happen well after I had left an abusive situation. So there has to be like forgiveness for even these like very minute little things, like not eating enough, not drinking enough water, not taking care of our physical needs. And so I sometimes will, to combat this part, I will chant that to myself, because sometimes the only way to get that voice to calm down is to make yours louder. And that's that same thing with the ammunition that I was saying before. It's like, I got to speak louder than that in my head. I got to speak louder than what it's saying to me. I have to speak louder than the patterns and the habits that were ingrained when I was 7, even though I left when I was 17. So I'm still working through that. But that is like this physical thing that I do to work through forgiveness, because I feel like we say, and we can say the words all day long, oh, forgive yourself, forgive yourself. Where's the action and how do we do it? And I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. But this meditation that I work through, it's an actual action that we can do and say and physically talk to the body. Like, I'm sorry to my liver for these things. I'm sorry to my stomach for these things. I'm sorry to my, my adrenal glands, like the pressure and the amount of like expectation I had on my adrenal system to keep me alive without any caloric intake. Like that was insane. I completely destroyed my adrenal system. I needed to talk to my kidneys and my adrenal glands and be like, hey, I'm sorry I did this to you. Can you please forgive me? Like as if we were building trust again with the physical body that we abandoned when those people taught us to abandon ourselves in order to survive. That pattern doesn't serve us anymore. So now it's like this whole new thing we have to build of like, no, I'm not trying to survive abusers anymore. I'm in control and I get to decide. But then there's all these pieces that have to kind of come back together. We have to forgive ourselves, but physically and every single piece of the body. Like, what have we done? Like, I think about like the scars. Like I have this like scar on my arm from reaching into the oven. Like I'm constantly burning the top of my arm on the upper rack of the oven, like all the time. Like it got to a point for like a year that there was like this permanent burn on my forearm because I just kept reaching into the oven and nicking the top of my arm on this oven rack. That's carelessness. And that's not taking the time and protecting and serving my body because I'm being careless and hasty. So I sit there with the Ho'onopono meditation and say, like, I'm sorry sorry, please forgive me. And then follow that up with accountability by being less hasty and taking more time to be more cautious and pay more attention so I don't harm myself anymore or any further. So we have to actually like take physical action to like rebuild the trust and also find and build forgiveness, because it's not something that we can gaslight ourselves into. You cannot force yourself to forgive something or someone. It has to like naturally happen as you gain perspective and awareness, and you see the difference in the miracles, like shifting perspective, right? And then we can have forgiveness. But the physical body, like, it also requires forgiveness. And that meditation, I've found sitting with that and asking each individual part of my body for forgiveness. And I still do this to this day. Like if I'm struggling with like back pain or shoulder pain, I sit there and say like, I'm so sorry I put so much pressure on you today. I'm sorry I expected so much of you. You're just a human, and I definitely didn't give you enough calories to put that much expectation on you. So please forgive me.
Could you say those 4 statements again for our viewers or listeners?
Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. And I love you. And you can say them in order, any order you want to. Like sometimes it comes, for me, I'll be like just saying it over and over, and it'll be like, I love you, I love you, I love you, thank you, please forgive me, I'm sorry, and it's just that sentiment of a real true apology and really truly asking for forgiveness, and then understanding the words. Like if we look at the 4 agreements, the book, The 4 Agreements, one of the 4 agreements is to be impeccable with your word. And the reason for that is he suggests that our words are our spells. And when we say our words out loud, we're casting the spells with our words. So we have to be impeccable with the words that we share. And when we say, I love you to ourselves, that's a verb, that's an action. That's saying, I'm promise to take care of you.
Right. Well, I appreciate you saying that, because it's spelled out to me in a really dramatic way, is that you're rebuilding a temple, it sounds like. And if we think of it in the sense of a temple, my buddy Kevin up there, up on the top end of the screen at the top level, he likes going to that temple. And so do I. It's a spiritual connection. We have to take care of our temples physically and spiritually, because that is where our higher power dwells, to keep us safe and protected from everything that we put ourselves into. So yeah, that mantra, that those 4 statements. Thank you. Can you please help me with that again? One more, just say it one more time.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
And
love
I
you.
love you. Amazing. What a healing 4 simple statements to make to help your own self.
And what
And
better way
what is
Yeah, what better way to respect your higher power than to respect your temple?
exactly? And not only that, but it's a self-care thing. What? You mean I can do something for myself that's gonna help me? Imagine that. Wide open. Great moment. Great moment. I'll clap with that one too.
My round of applause.
That's right. Right.
Wow.
Thank you, Miss Sharissa, for sharing that
Oh
again
yeah.
with us.
Yeah, no, listen, it has been a absolute phenomenal time up here. And I know I can't keep you for the rest of the day. And I would so love to, like, God almighty, I would love to keep you for the rest of
Yeah,
the
we're
day.
doing episode 3. Don't drag it
Yeah,
out.
no,
We'll
episode
set it
3,
up.
4, 5, 12. I mean, let's go ahead and get this thing done, right?
Yes, sir.
Um, so listen, to wrap it up, I want to know where people, again, where they can buy your books from. That's number one.
Right from the screen, Sharissa Bradley, that is my name, and that is where you can find everything. I'm sharissabradley.com, at Sharissa Bradley Author on all social media. And it is the easiest way to click every link and find me in every possible place, is just the website, sharissabradley.com.
I love it. And
Outstanding. And
go ahead.
I'm headed there, Kevin. I was jumping right on the stepping stone that we're using. in this podcast, the one thing that we always like to do is to ask our guests if there was one thing that you could use as a point for our viewers or listeners to access the way that they can change them to change their lives, change them to change a group that they're involved in, or just change in this moment. What is it? What opportunity or what mantra what theory, scientific diagram, it doesn't matter what it is. What would you specifically say to someone that would help them to get to where they need to be for them? Hang on just a second. I'm going to ask Kevin. Hey, Kev, can you help me? It's been so many episodes that I've been out that I forgot what we usually
That
say.
was fine. What is one thing that somebody could use to help them?
Well, no, not that. But wasn't there something that we have always traditionally said?
Yeah, but that's that's the last
Okay, that's
question.
the other episodes. We like
Lord
to,
have mercy.
okay, I
Listen,
customized
you're
it pretty
asking the
good
right
then.
question, okay?
Nice.
Lord have mercy. You asking the right
Nice.
question. That's
All
the
right.
middle.
I just wanted to be.
We ask 3 questions, sometimes 4.
Yes.
I love your guys' banter, and I'm so grateful that I've gotten to be a part of it today. It's such a different atmosphere than when it was just us together last time. I think I'll just kind of reiterate the sentiment from earlier, and that's just to continue to have grace with yourself. If you want to make a list of changes, things that you want to change about yourself, if you want to be a different person, give yourself a realistic timeline of a year or 2 years, and spend a month or 2 per habit, and think about each habit as something that you have to build, because change is nearly impossible. And so if we can just take it one little tiny action step at a time and give ourselves a ton of grace and fill the body full of love and self-acceptance, and just recognize that it's impossible to do these things that we're trying to do. So if you do it, then you're amazing and brave and strong and should be celebrated with grace and filled with love. So thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity to share that with everybody. But I just feel like grace is the most important thing we can extend to ourselves.
And this is the most important question that you're going to be asked for the rest of the day, except for your children, okay? Outside of your children. And I assume your husband too. So this is going to, your husband isn't even included in this. So this is the most important question, regardless of husband, just not the children, okay? They are more important than this one question. What is your call to action?
You know what? I really like this this meditation that I recommended, and I would say to look up this book. It's called Zero Limits. It's Where It Comes From. And I would say just, try to take action and try to take care of ourselves. And then also, if you're looking for some more support and some more encouragement, then definitely check out my book, Journey Back to Health, because that's what this book is. It's just me supporting and encouraging and holding your hand through your own health journey, where we don't always have support in that isolated state. So my call to action is check out my book, and also just continue to love yourself. Check out that book, Zero Limits, and if that meditation is something that's calling to you.
I love it. I love it.
Outstanding.
And I appreciate the fact that you do like our banter back and forth. Look, this is if Ruben was up here, we'd
man.
had guests on our show where we would I remember this one time we had a family marriage therapist on. She was from Illinois or New York or somewhere up north, and so I'm like, listen, I got a serious question I need to ask you, right? I mean, it was dead silent. She was like, yeah. I'm like, I've got 2 children. I really need help with. I need to be a better parent. And their name is Trevor and Ruben, and they don't listen to us. the woman lost it. She lost it. Oh my gosh, she was an amazing young lady. God, and if she's listening, I hope she is. But she was so phenomenal. Trevor and Ruben thought I was being serious. They literally thought I was being for real. And as soon as I threw their names out there, they were like, "Oh God."
You're so good at keeping a serious face when you're about to say something silly anyway. So you have a skill. Don't deny it.
I love it. Oh God, I love it. Wow. Well, yeah, no, I think you are. I think you might be right. I think you might be right. So, folks, y'all have heard the best. Not from me, not from Trev, but from Miss Sharissa. So check her out. Check out her social media. Subscribe to her. Follow her on social media. Um, she's got multiple pages. 52 Press. She's got Sharissa Bradley. She's got multiple things. All of the links are, all across the board on all the social media. Check her out. Follow her. And also follow us too while you're following her. That being said, Miss Sharissa, thank you.
Thank you so much for
You
having
are,
me.
yes, ma'am.